So, ready when you are.
I'm ready when you are as well. So,
Okay. Um, are we recording or are we streaming?
yes, I'm recording it.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Do you just want me to kick off with an introduction and then go through the slides, and then we'll sort of take any questions from there.
Yeah, sounds lovely.
All right. So listen. Thanks for having me back to Cardinal House, a second visit. And you guys are always welcome. I've sort of come today to tell people about Wave Finance. I'm the community manager on Wave Finance, and been on there for about 3 weeks now, and we're just heading into launch. So spreading the word, as they say, and coming through to different and doing that the AMA rounds and making sure everybody aware of what's going on. I think what I'll sort of say before I start, Zach, is look, thanks for having us. This space is helped by Discords like yours that are happy to host and share news, and so you take 3 whitelists and you do with those what you like today, whether you want to give those away to the audience or run some competitions. But if you let me know who win those whitelists, we're happy to give away 3 whitelists to your Discord for our project.
Oh, I appreciate that. Sounds awesome. Yeah, we always love hearing from different projects, and it's a way to essentially do research on the job, so I enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. It's great. It's great. So let me tell you a little bit about the project team that's behind Wave Finance. So there are three of them: Sub-Zero, Soccer, and Guts. Those unlikely characters there. Just to give you a little bit of a sort of background, they're all actually entrepreneurs in their own rights. They've all started up companies and they're at various stages. So Guts, for example, sold his derivatives company to Coinbase. Soccer has actually got a company at the moment that he's just moving on to a venture capitalist house, and Sub-Zero is president of a C Series company that is just moving away from in order to concentrate full time on this space. So between them, there's over 16 years of experience in this space, and Guts really is the developer. Sub-Zero is the project manager, and Soccer brings a wealth of experience. Having previously worked for the ETH Foundation, and so he's got a lot of experience to this. And I think that's great that three characters have pulled together that know this space so well, and have now decided to launch their own product, and that's where Wave Finance is born of. Um, just before I sort of get onto the project itself, I'll just talk a little bit about the security. Contracts are fully audited already by Solid Proof. That's done, posted up in our Discord. You can go and look at the certificates. We're looking at the moment to do the KYC post launch. That's just a timing thing because we're in conversations with Obsidian, and their process takes quite a bit of time. But we may try and do it before. But as the aim is to launch at the end of June, and we want to really try and make sure we go with Obsidian, it might be that we have to KYC post the raise. But we are taking security seriously. The wallets will be on a 3.4 multi-sig. And so that will be probably Sub-Zero, another member of the team, and then either an influencer and hopefully someone from Obsidian to give the community confidence that the Treasury wallet is secure and locked, and we'll be locking the liquidity pool for 1 year from launch. So we're taking all the normal steps that you would expect. It's just the KYC may run after, depending on the timelines with the conversations that we're having. So that's sort of, if you like, the team, the security. If you talk about the project itself, it's actually Sphere-inspired contracts on the Binance Smart Chain. And I think in speaking to Sub-Zero at some length, the team sort of view that DeFi is still a space with sort of a ton of what, challenges, and adapting to new challenges and adapting to new innovation is constantly going on. And sort of the see that the auto rebase introduced really changed the games in some way in this space. But obviously, the outrageously high APYs that everything launched are unsustainable, and so they're looking on how they can change the landscape, and make sure that they produce a sustainable financial instrument for people to earn in and have real passive income. So, it's been inspired by Sphere, but it also takes some inspiration from other projects. And the reason we say it's an inspired contract is they've taken elements they've written their own contract that's been fully audited. So that's where we talk as an inspiration as opposed to a fork. We'll be taking the the auto rebase every 30 minutes, so there's no need to stake. You buy your wave, hold it, and you'll get 1.91%, 99k per annum into there, and that'll rebase every 30 minutes. Quickly touch on the taxes. 5% of the buy taxes and 15% of the sell taxes or transfer taxes go into the treasury, 5% into the liquidity pool, and 3% into the whirlpool. And I'll talk a little bit about what the whirlpool is shortly. There is a dynamic sell tax in place as an anti-whale, anti-dumping mechanism to try and minimise the impact of large sales. But we also have another plan that we'll be using to try and help with the actual large sales that are required and incentivise off-book selling of those direct into the project. So just to go through with what the actual project will launch with, the Whirlpool is actually inspired by the Safer Burn Pit. So 3% of all trades are sent to the Whirlpool. It's a dead wallet, but it actually has auto compound in it, so it takes tokens out of supply. The treasury is going to be used, and this is probably one of the more interesting parts of the project. It's going to be used to acquire governance tokens on various projects and stablecoin farming. It will be used for developing and marketing, but the main part there is the governance token acquisition. And I think the key to that, as we sort of talk about the marketing strategies, is how the team plan to launch the project and how the team plan to grow the community. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get onto marketing. The idea is that if we acquire a stake in a governance token, then we will not only have an influence on that protocol, but we'll also be able to have real marketing relationships with that protocol. So at the moment, the team are in conversations with PancakeSwap, and if we can get that relationship and running and acquire a significant proportion of their governance tokens, not only do we earn from their protocol, but we also have an influence with it, and then we can also have a direct marketing arrangement between them. If that works, it's rinse and repeat. We can move to another protocol and we can do the same. But that is the initial protocol that we're talking to. Auto liquidity with it's a Wave BNB pair, and 5% goes to the liquidity receiver. We also have a feature called Play, which has just been renamed Tidal to go with the Wave theme. And basically, you can deposit your Wave into the Play wallet. So you have 1,000 Wave, and you stop accumulating your rebases then, and the Play wallet accumulates them and takes them. What then happens every 3 days is there's a lottery, and the rebases are shared out amongst the winners. So you may put 1,000 Wave in, I may put 2,000 Wave in. I've got twice as many lottery tickets as you, in effect, but obviously you have a chance of winning far more than you would on rebase. So you give up your 1.91% a day in order to win a higher amount on the lottery. Now that lottery runs every 3 days. If you deposit your Wave, it has to stay there for 16 days for you not to be penalised. If you want it out before, you can, but if you deposit on day one and withdraw on day one, then there'll be a 30% tax on that Wave that you withdraw, and that falls by about 1.87% every day until after 16 days it's free to withdraw. So as long as you put your Wave in there for 16 days and take it out after 16 days, or you can leave it in for as long as you like, your tokens are not at risk. All you're giving up is your rebases, and it's the rebases that creates the lottery pot for users to be able to win. In terms of the allocation of how we're launching, 51% of all the funds are raised will be locked in the LP. Only 2% are going to the team. That's the team allocation of funds. To seek treasury, which is used for the purposes that I spoke of earlier, and 2% are going to be used for fees during launch, like the audit, like the KYC fees that have been used during launch. In terms of where we're actually going with the launch, just for clarity, we're not looking to have a huge whitelist. That is not the plan. The plan is to have a launch with a whitelist of 150 to 200 maximum. We're growing our Discord organically. We're not using shillers, we're not using chatters. We'd rather have an organically grown quality community that are interested in the project and want to invest currently the only 3 marketing tools that we're using as we're heading to launch our AMAs to spread the word. The other one is that we are doing collaborations with projects to exchange investors and give away some whitelist positions between us. And the final one is we're currently assessing which YouTube influencers we may want to engage to get some more marketing material and get the word out there. But those are the 3 mechanisms that we're doing at the moment. And that's why at the moment, our ratio of whitelists to actual members of the Discord is quite low. We've got about, last count, about 750 in the Discord and about 60 whitelisted, and that's fine. That's what we want to do. We want to have interested people in the project. We're not making the whitelist too onerous at the moment because we want people to earn the whitelist by 3 invites and reach level 3. But we're doing that in order to say, look, if you're interested, bring other parties in. But we don't want to make it 10 invites, 15 invites. It will get harder when we hit 75 because people will have invited. But we're really trying to say, look, come and look at the project first. The main thing is, do you want to invest in the project? I think if we talk about the roadmap and we sort of talk about these dates now, these originally we were looking for a mid-June launch. We're actually thinking it's going to be the end of June now. We are launching in June. The team are adamant we're launching in June. We're not, like I say, we're only looking for 150 max, 200 whitelist space, and we're looking for an initial market cap of under 100,000. And part of the reason behind that is we don't want an excessive amount of funds to actually fully manage. We want to grow organically. We want to go quick to launch, get the governance tokens in the project that we're investing in, establish that market relationship, and then let the price speak for itself in trading. So we'll be launching within the next 2 weeks, and the current decks we're looking to launch, and will be no surprise, will be Pancake Swap because we're in conversations with them. But I think the 4 main roadmap items then that we need to talk about are our ocean bonds. So ocean bonds are our equivalent of being able to buy the tokens from large sellers directly to give them a reduced tax rate. So they'll actually not end up with the sliding tax for large sells, but also we won't end up with the price swings in the decks in the pair. So ocean bonds, if you like, is our whale purchase mechanism where whales can sell to us directly into the treasury. We're also looking at implementing H2O liquidity where we actually actively use the LP farming, and the team are working through the mechanics of that at the moment, so that the LP doesn't just sit there and as a result doesn't actually earn anything, but is just a static LP. I know that's something, for example, that Sphere do, and that's what the team are looking to do as well with the LP. Sort of next stage, the next 2 stages are functional stages really, are then to look at developing our own decks, whether that's an aggregator decks or whether it's actually our own decks with LPs. The team are working through at the moment. But to have a full service deck to provide swapping and staking and farming, which then provides income to wave holders, is an important part of our strategy, so that we actually not just get utility in the token, but provide a service via the treasury that can develop the decks, and then those returns have been returned to investors. And the final thing is we, by August, we're looking to move to perpetual APY. And so this is not deflationary. We aim to be deflationary, but this is actually an APY that is based around the actual yields that we're accruing from the various projects. So in effect, it would be variable because if the yields change month on month, it would be variable. But it does mean that we're able to provide a more sustainable long-term income as a result of that, because we're not going to pay out high rewards if the actual yields are not high to match that and compensate for that. So our aim is that by August we'll be in a perpetual APY scenario. There are mechanisms within the protocol for tokens to be burnt, but obviously burning tokens only happens when certain actions, and if you have a fairly static protocol, if trading volumes are low, then you don't really achieve the burns to keep up with the actual reward structure. And so the perpetual APYs is the way forward, and then in addition to that, obviously any burning will also depreciate the number of tokens in circulation. So thought I'd give you a sneak peek of the Dapp. I only got this week, so it's probably the plainest slide with a screenshot on, but it's the Dapp. That's what it looks like. Nice and clean. Certainly hope my wallet looks like that after a couple of weeks, but time will tell. Yeah, that we're sort of basing obviously the Dapp around being able to make sure that you understand when the rebates is coming, what your daily earnings are, what your next reward amount is, what it is in USD, and then sort of start to give you the ROI figures. Obviously on the left there, you'll see you'll also be able to go to Wave Play if you want to deposit some or all of your tokens in the Play application. So in terms of where we're at the moment, contracts are audited. There's our standard socials, growing membership. Like I say, we'll need to update this slide. We're just past 750 now. Whitelist, we're trying not to make it onerous, and so just 3 invites, and now we've got ongoing the various advertising and marketing to get more people interested. I think one thing that we're going to do, so just to run through some of the actual whitelist setup, we're going to launch on our own Dapp. We're not going to launch on Pink Sale. That had been in discussion. If I go back to the first AMA, that was in discussion. That's now been decided. Part of that's been decided because the community wanted us to launch on the Dapp. They didn't want to launch with a platform that may take tokens and then sell them down and depreciate the price. That was actually a request from a number of our whitelisters. So we're going to launch on our own Dapp. The price of the token will be 0.01 of a dollar. And what will happen with whitelists is it will open for public sale for everybody. However, whitelist will receive a 20% airdrop of additional tokens at the end of the public sale. So rather than having a whitelist price for the token, letting them have a pre-sale and then have a public sale, we're doing the whole sale together. That's to make sure really 2 things. One is that when the sale opens and we have a hard cap, if we're heading towards a hard cap of 100k, 150k, wherever we set that, which is going to be in that region, if people buying on public sale and whitelists haven't bought, well, that's a trigger to buy if you want to be investors as a whitelist, because if we sold out everything to public sale, then that's what it is. So we're not going to launch separate, and that's how we're going to run the launch. And that's me done. That's sort of a summary of the project. Hopefully that's given you a good feel for what the project is about, and over to you for any questions you might have.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. That was very awesome. Not a lot of projects do presentations, so it's always fun to see the visuals with it, because I know a lot of people like to see visuals, and that just helps them learn better. So I think that's definitely, a big kudos to you for putting together these presentations. I do have a couple of questions.
Yep.
So you mentioned your partnership of sorts with PancakeSwap. Is that like the first exchange you're targeting to acquire with governance rights, or is this a different partnership? I was just a little confused on that.
All right, so yes, it is. It is the first exchange we're looking to acquire with governance tokens and do a joint marketing with them, because if that's successful, we can move on to others. So we sort of build in a strategy of we'll build out, we'll work with them, we then have their Discord has a direct relationship with us then, because we're part of their project. If we can have a significant stake, we can influence the direction of that project as well, and therefore it's in their interest to work with us, and we'll work with them and that bring their investors to our project. So yes, and as I've said, providing that's a success, we can rinse and repeat that. We can move that onto other projects, but that is the one that the team have been in just discussion with at the moment.
Yeah, that is very ambitious. I can't imagine it's cheap to acquire enough governance tokens to have that much pull on PancakeSwap. Do you know, like, roughly what you guys are looking to target, like amount of cake tokens to acquire?
Not at the moment. The team haven't sort of worked that through, because I think it will depend on what PancakeSwap consider a significant stake in order to join us in that marketing exercise. So there's 2 phases to it, isn't it? The first one is to have influence, and the second phase is to have enough to make it worth pancake swaps while to say, yeah, these are serious, and we can market with them. So I think it will all depend on the raise. Like I say, we're not looking to raise um, millions, because I think sometimes that can actually be worse than raising a small amount and have some organic growth. We'd rather raise quickly and launch and let trading then build the treasury up. So I don't think we'd put a figure on that at the moment.
Okay, gotcha. That's interesting. That's a it's a lofty goal. I like that though. You know, big goals are always awesome to have.
And I sort of go back to, you've got to go back to who the founders of the project are. These are if I just get back to them, these are serious business entrepreneurs. You don't write a derivatives, have a derivatives company that Coinbase buys unless Coinbase see value in it. Venture capitalists buying a company off soccer, and Subira's company, which he's built and he's president of, his exiting. These are serious entrepreneurs coming into this space. They're not here to create a token, let it get rebased, and wonder what to do with the treasure. They have a plan.
Gotcha. Yeah, those are definitely some pretty impressive things to have on your bio to for a project teammate. That's awesome. And then for the over the counter selling, um, how exactly does that work? Like, I'm assuming your treasury has to have enough assets in it to buy back those tokens, right?
Yes, so obviously it will depend on the amount that wants to be sold and whether or not we want to release that much of the treasury to buy them, because obviously we want to maintain a healthy treasury in order to make sure that we can continue our acquisition of governance tokens and invest in the project. So it will have limits. It won't be anything goes, but it will be an alternative method to save those tokens hitting the liquidity pool, and actually be, as it will be a lower tax, it'll be more beneficial to the seller. There'll obviously be a minimum limit because we just don't want it to be an alternative selling mechanism. And that'll sort of be defined when we've done the pre-sale and we understand the value of Wave and the number of tokens that are in, so we don't end up just being an alternative. It's not for traders. It's not for the likes of me, certainly not a whale, but it's for the likes of people who acquire large stakes and then want to sell some of those down.
Gotcha. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And then just a couple more questions, and then we can start asking some of the community questions. So if anybody wants to ask a question, they can go and drop it in the AMA questions text channel, and we will get to it shortly. And my next question is, you mentioned that you are eventually going to go deflationary. What's that going to look like? And is that, like, I guess, any different than how Sphere decided to do it?
So I think, just for clarity, the words I use were, we aspire to go deflationary through the project. We're not going to switch off the rewards. What we're going to do is control the rewards by having a variable APY that matches the yields. So if you think about that, we're able to only give out rewards based on the income that we've got coming in. When we say we aspire to go deflationary, we would then like to see the trading burn more tokens than the yields in order to deflate the token. But we don't have the same plan as Sphere as of yet. Whereas, and I'm a Sphere holder, so yeah, I know exactly the route they've taken, which is they have switched off rebases now and gone full deflationary now. So we aspire to get to a deflationary position with the protocol operating with our sustainable APY. There's no decision in the future at the moment to switch off the rebasing. It'll just be variable.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. Um, let's see. Could you actually go back to that slide about the perpetual APY and I guess expand a little bit about that? Like where exactly does that APY come from? How does governance acquisition and other protocols help with that APY? And then is that treasury invested to help with that APY as well? And I guess exactly does that look like?
So if you think about the income streams that the project will have, it will have income streams from the governance token itself, just yields from holding those. It'll also be farming some of the treasury into yield bearing income streams. And then the final thing is when we have our own decks, that will be gathering income. transactions. And so all of that pot of income becomes income for the investors, because that is money that's coming into the project as a result of the way the project has been set up. That will then be able to determine the APY that we can reward based on the value of that, and that's why it should be perpetual and variable.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. And then,
So I suppose just to look at it, another way to view it is it's almost dividend based, because you're getting a proportion of the profit based on the number of wave tokens you hold, if you think of it like that in classic investment terms.
yeah, so is that yield that's generated, is that going to be used in essentially like buybacks that are distributed to the holders?
Yes, that's the plan, so that you continue to
Gotcha.
receive tokens. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And then what's your plan to getting people on board with using the Wave decks?
So obviously we like our own investors do it, but obviously that's not going to sustain the decks. So I think what we want to be able to do is, as we work with other projects like PancakeSwap and other non-XJ DEX projects, is to actually have those projects use our DEX for their token. So if you think about it, we're launching on PancakeSwap. We have regions where projects launch on Wave DEX. And so using our marketing with upcoming projects to bring their token to the DEX and use that. So it's all about marketing it into upcoming projects and then expanding the DEX. Whether it and if it's an aggregated DEX, remember it can scan across the various DEXs that are out there already. But if we can get into new projects using our DEX, if we can get into obviously growing our community and getting our community trading on our own DEX, that'll be the way that we'll grow it. And we just think that it'll then begin to organically grow. If we can we're not taking the view that we're looking to acquire lots of different protocols. We're really just going after, you said lofty ambition with PancakeSwap. Yes, it is. We're going after what we consider, the top tier partners, and so we don't want lots of partners. We want a number of quality partners, and we think that as well as launching with other projects.
Gotcha. So we're launching Cardinal token in a couple of months here, and if I were looking at Wave Dex versus PancakeSwap, why would I want to launch on Wave Dex versus PancakeSwap? I guess what are the benefits to launching on your Dex that would deter me from launching on PancakeSwap, which is already built up, it's been around for a while, people trust it,
Yep.
etc.
And I think part of those reasons is that we wouldn't just talk to you about launching on our DEX. We talk to you about being part of our protocol in the sense of contributing into the protocol, not in terms of your project, but actually having a closer relationship than just being a DEX. So we would want to bring our investors to your project, and we would want to look at your project and actually share. And that's where coming to sharing marketing effort with other projects as opposed to just being a service. We don't just want to be a service. We want to be an incubator and cultivate projects and promote them. So I think the relationship is more two-way than current choose a DEX, launch on the DEX.
Gotcha. Okay. Then my last question before we'll move on to audiences. I know I said the last question 3 questions ago, but I had a lot of questions come up, a lot of great answers too. But I believe Sphere has actually patented the quantum liquidity as a service, and I think that is pretty similar to your H2O liquidity that you brought up.
Yep.
Is that going to get complicated with legalities around that patent, or what's that going to look like?
Yeah, so this was actually raised in our own AMA that we had in our own Discord by one of the investors, and Sub-Zero ran that one, and they're not aware of a patent that prevents us from actually implementing H2O liquidity in the form that we're implementing it. But to be fair, the straight answer, and this was 10 days ago, so I'll give the same answer again, is the team have gone away to check that out because obviously we want to make sure that we are tight and we're not going to be challenged. But they're not aware that any patent they've got prohibits us from implementing H2O liquidity.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess one last question. In
Oh,
the
I thought you asked that 3 questions ago.
now it's 4 questions ago. In the hypothetical scenario that you aren't able to offer H2O liquidity, how would that impact the project?
I don't think that would impact the project in terms of moving forward because I think this is just one element. I think when you have entrepreneurs in the room, problems are just opportunities to find solutions. And so they will look at it and they will decide whether or not we do something slightly different or we don't do it. But I don't think it affects the overall, let's say, the overall ambition of the project. Let's take one extreme view that we couldn't, in any shape or form, do any form of dynamic liquidity, because of what Sophia said. If we were in that position, that's just one element of the project that we wouldn't be yielding from. It wouldn't stop the project moving forward.
Gotcha. That makes sense. All right, now we can move on to the community
Are
questions.
you sure you don't have one more question?
I'm sure. I'll lock it in. No more questions from me. Let's see. We got one question. He said he lost connection for a couple of minutes, so it was sort of asked. So, is there a plan to get the token deflationary in the future? And I'll expand on this question too. Are the perpetual APY, the funds that deliver that APY, is that going to be like a 1-to-1, or is there going to be slight deflation or slight inflation? As in, let's say you have $1 million of revenue for a month. Is every single $1 million of that revenue going to be put into buybacks and then distributed, or is there going to be like $900,000 that are distributed to people and then that other 100,000 would be burned, or what's that going to look like?
So the team are working on the tokenomics of whether it's 100% or 90% at the moment. So there may be a degree of it that we burn, but I think the thing to remember is the other deflationary side of it is every trade creates burn. Every time there is an interaction of an exchange of tokens, it creates burn because 3% of all trading goes to the whirlpool, which is a dead wallet, and therefore there is a natural burn in the token. So this then is about making sure that we burn adequate on top to get to a deflationary position or a static position. Like I said, we aspire to be deflationary. That's not the overall aim. The overall aim is to make sure we have a perpetual APY for people. If you own 3% of tokens, and then you should be getting 3% of the yield. If your tokens increase in line with everybody else, then you'll still have 3%. So it all depends on, if you like, the proportion of your tokens to the yield in order to receive your payouts.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a pretty unique aspect that, is definitely branching off from what Sphere is doing, or branching away from what they are doing, not to say off of it, but yeah, definitely unique.
Most projects are trying to, if you like, solve the same problem at the moment. A lot of the projects are looking at how do we get to deflation, or how do we control inflation, if you want to look at it that way. And this is the approach that we're taking at Wave. Obviously, Sphere have gone in a different direction. Time will tell how these projects, Sphere, for as long as it's been around, is still very young as a business, because that's where it is essentially, and we're even younger. So you take forward with the idea that you believe is the right idea for the environment, and you see, and you adjust if you need to down the line.
Gotcha. All right. DGen asks, do you think your DEX will get enough onboarding and volume of onboarding projects given the market conditions? So I guess, what are your overall thoughts with launching in these markets? Because I know a lot of people just either aren't looking to get into new projects right now, or just don't have money left over after losing it in a bunch of different projects. So where are you at with that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you launch in a bear market? And because that's, if let's be under no illusion where we are at the moment in the challenges that we have in the market. And as we for a BSC project are looking for I'm going to call it a small raise. 100,000 never a small raise, but in relevant terms, it is. We think that we can launch with that now. As I said, we don't want to raise anything like 200, 300, 500,000. We're going to have a hard cap that prevents that from happening in any event. That's not the ambition. I think the market conditions at the moment, I'd love to say they've settled, but who knows? We do seem to have hit a bit of a bottom at the moment, but there may be another bottom to come. Don't give financial advice. I thought we were almost there a couple of weeks ago, and then we took another dive. So I think market conditions are tough. This is one of the reasons that we're wanting to grow slowly and organically. One of the reasons that we want to launch quite quick in some respects is to almost catch the turnaround, which we believe will come, and we want to make sure that when it comes, we're in a position to benefit from that. So it will all depend, and we're starting our engagement with our community now, to sort of say, right, okay, we're 2 weeks out, start collecting. It's like anything when you're running a project, you get people on the whitelist, you go to collect wallets, you might get 70% of those wallets, depending on how engaged the community is, knowing that only 40, 50% of those will invest. You start to get a feel quite early on for the launch. So we'll work that out over the next couple of weeks. But I think the market at the moment is tough. People have either ridden their tokens down, in which case they've lost their sums, and there isn't as much new retail money coming in at the moment because people are looking at the market and it's a sea of red and frankly can look like a scary place. But if we can launch now, it's actually the perfect time, because I think you're there then for when the market does start to turn. And if none of us think the market is going to turn, if none of us believe in DeFi enough that it's going to turn, then we probably shouldn't be on the AMA and in this business anyway. I think the difficulty people have got is, yes, whether it be node projects or NFT projects, have bought them at quite a high level and are looking at a long window for any ROI. I think when you start to buy when the market's in a bear situation, you've got the potential of a double return. The first one being, if it's not got much further to fall, then the ROI looks more achievable. But also, if it turns into then a bull market, your ROI comes much quicker. So I do think there's advantages. Timing is everything. Are we at the bottom of the curve and about to turn? Well, if I knew that, I'd be a much richer man than I am now, because history would have helped me spot those curves. I think wait and see, but we're confident that we can get a successful launch in the current market conditions.
Gotcha. Yeah, interesting. And I think this is a pretty relevant question, especially compared to what a lot of projects are kind of debating amongst themselves recently. Are you launching paired with a stable coin or the native coin on the Binance network, or BNB?
We're going to pair with BNB. That's what I suppose. If you pair with a stable coin, you have stability, as the name suggests. But if you pair with BNB, then you also have the ability to ride any recovery in that coin. It goes back to, where do you think the market is at? We're pairing with BNB, so that probably tells you that we think the market is in a place where it may be in a place where we can grow from here, and BNB can start to recover some of its value, which will just be of benefit to us. And so that's why we're pairing BNB.
Gotcha. That definitely makes sense. But I think we're all crossing our fingers that the markets turn around soon.
It's a scary place, but if people want to sort of compare it, it's no scarier than when the stock market crashes. It's just that these are just different financial instruments. What all people have got to decide, and it's up to each individual, and I've sort of made my view on it, is DeFi here to stay and going to come back? And I firmly believe these are some of the most innovative platforms to crowdfund investments that are out there, putting the power proper power into investors' hands. And so with that in mind, I think as a mechanism to raise funds and then raise returns for investors, they're here to stay. And if you believe they're here to stay, then it is about getting the product right, and getting people excited enough to believe in the product long term, not believe in the product for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then jump ship and go elsewhere. Sustainable income is only sustainable if people hold sustainably.
Right on. All right. Jojo asks, is there a difference between your version of quantum liquidity and Sphere's version?
Very good question. And as I've done AMAs for weeks and weeks, what I will say directly to Jojo as you're listening is jump into our Discord and pose a question. Let me get some detail from the developers on that because I wouldn't want to misinform anybody on this AMA. That's the best way to answer that one, Zach, because I don't want to be in a position where I'm saying anything. The developers and Guts and Soccer have developed H2O liquidity. I'm best for them to highlight the specific differences in it.
All right. And then he also asks, does Wave Finance have plans to become a registered business? Definitely something that long-term investors might get excited about.
Yeah, and that's under consideration by the team. As I said, Sub-Zero is actually exiting as a Series C president, president of a Series C company in the US, and they have been obviously in those positions. So they are looking at options. I think first get the launch done, first establish the business, and then we'll move forward and consider all options because this is about legitimizing the business. And I didn't call it a protocol or a project there, but about legitimizing the business and taking each step forward, because obviously registering the business brings benefits not just to investors but also to the team as well, in terms of this being a fully fledged legitimate business rather than another protocol on the blockchain. So I don't think that's off the table. I think the first thing is let's get a successful launch.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. And I believe Sphere actually is not, or they don't have any plans to become like a legitimized business. And I guess we'll see where
Not
where
that I'm
that
aware
takes
of.
them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
I think if you grow, I mean, Sphere have done very well. It's it is a fantastic project. What they've achieved is very good, and I think as it grows, if it continues to grow, I'm not involved in it other than being an investor myself. But if it grows, then there comes a tipping point where you're no longer a blockchain project, and so they'll have to keep reviewing that, and there are a lot of clever guys in that project that can decide what's best for Sphere.
yeah. I think it's definitely interesting how Sphere's taken the approach of being anonymous and essentially breaking the law with doing what they're doing, and they're seeing massive success. And I just don't see that ending super well. Like I think they're gonna get capped out at some point because they're eventually just gonna get too big if they were to continue to grow. That there's no way that they wouldn't have somebody trying to regulate them. So
Yeah,
I think that if you guys do go the route of being a legitimized business, that could give you kind of like a competitive edge on Sphere. So that could be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I agree. I agree.
Let's see. Benova asks, as I know, strong backing and partnerships in the crypto market might bring huge benefits to new projects. During this point, can you tell us about the investors and partners of your project, and what benefits do you expect from them?
So at the moment, the investment team is the actual three founders, because they have all funded this off their own wealth because of their previous ability to sell their companies on and do this. So the team itself are funding this, as in Sub-Zero, Soccer, and Guts. So, and I've gone through their backgrounds, their pedigree in this market, and so those are the guys really to look to in terms of, do you think this is a solid management team? And like I said, they will KYC. I think there's the mention in the presentation that we've put together that you know Soccer been part of the ETH Foundation. You could probably find him without KYC. He's somebody who's quite prevalent in the crypto community. So these three entrepreneurs are the people that built this project and are funding it.
Gotcha. If you can find them, is there a reason why they are doxxed?
Well, like I said, they're going through with Obsidian at the moment, and in terms to get the KYC, doxing would be the next stage because obviously soccer is the one. I'm not saying you can find Guts or Sub-Zero. I've not tried. I'm not. Well, it's better things to do with my time than spend hours on Google. But that's why the KYC with Obsidian, I think, is probably going to be the first stage of being important. And obviously, if they go down the route of registering the business, it will all be public knowledge in any event.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you sell a business to Coinbase, then it narrows you down a little bit.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure if you listed the business off and then some people started googling, and there weren't bought many derivatives companies either. So, it's almost doxing for the researchers there if they want to go away and look at it. In Sub-Zero was involved in Risk Dow, so you can go away and look at that project. That then they're not hiding as such. They're looking to fully KYC and move forward with this, and they can be found, but that's the path they're taking at the moment.
Gotcha. All right, it looks like we have one more question from Houdini. He asks, how do you intend on saving your reserves in stablecoins, BNB, or going forward with the growth fund?
I think that will be an investment decision based on the market. So if I would have said when AVAX was at $60, everybody flipped to stable coins because this is going down further. Some people would have laughed at me because everybody was saying it'll never see 60 again. I think they meant on the upside. I don't think they meant on the downside. So I think that it will depend on the market. There'll be times when you'll want to be in the stable coin to protect the investment, and there'll be times when you'll want to be in, the actual protocol coins, if that protocol's seeing growth, and that'll be an investment judgment call based on market dynamics.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And there's definitely a time to take risk and a time to take risk off the table. So
Yep.
it's just a matter of, well, when do you do that? And hopefully not
Exactly.
making the
When
wrong
do you,
decision.
yeah, when do you believe the market has turned is the question, and not nobody wants to be the first person to get in the market that's turned. They want a few more to jump first to make sure. But I think aren't we all looking for that at the moment? We're all looking to see whether this is the bottom and whether or not now it's time that we can actually start to build a holding in something. People will have either their own strategies where they're holding in stable coins, or actually they think this is it and they've started to buy back in. But that's up to individuals to decide, as the project team need to decide with the treasury. That's why we trust these projects to make the right calls.
Gotcha. I got one more question, then we can go ahead and wrap it up. Are there any governance rights that Wave token holders get from holding the tokens?
So we want to drive we want the community to drive the project forward. We haven't at the moment got a plan to introduce voting rights as traditional DAO voting rights, but that's not off the table. That's not something that we're not considering. It's just at the moment we've got a solid roadmap for the first 3 months. We don't really want to deviate from that, and if in 3 months' time then we start to move into how decisions that take us away from the roadmap, we want the community involved in that. So it's not so much a roadmap item to have those governance tokens deciding on policy and company direction at the moment, but that's not to say it can't come. We very much want this to be a community-driven project.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I think that's all the questions. Again, thank you so much for coming on. I will let you know about those whitelist bots. I think I'll give it to the people who had the top 3 best questions, and then also I'll make sure if Wolfsfrog, Wolfsorg, is that how I say it?
Don't be giving him a whitelist.
Is he already on there?
Discord, or he's from our project already.
Okay, gotcha.
He's come to watch me. He's come to listen to me to make sure I don't say anything wrong.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I was going to give one to him for helping us out at the start, but if that is the case, then I will give it to somebody else. But yeah, I appreciate it so much.
No problem. And thank you for having me. Pleasure as always.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for tuning in. And I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Okay, catch you later. Bye bye.